A corporate gala, flashing cameras. The young CEO steps onto the stage with her 8-year-old daughter by her side. Then through the crowd, a man pulls out a gun, aims directly at the little girl. Screams erupt. Guests scramble for the exits. Security, frozen in shock. But one man doesn't run. A man in a cheap, worn-out vest. He charges forward, arms spread wide, shielding the child with his own body. The gunshot echoes. He falls. Blood spreads across his shirt. His last whisper, "You're safe now." The room falls silent. The CEO stares down at this stranger. This nobody who just gave everything for her daughter. Elias Vance was nobody special. At least that's what everyone thought. 38 years old, a single father. He worked as a maintenance worker in the Apex Global Tower. The guy who fixed the broken lights and unclogged the toilets. The invisible man in the cheap gray vest that everyone walked past without a second glance. But to one person, he was everything. "Daddy, you're my hero," 9-year-old Lily would say every single morning, hugging him tight before school. Elias would smile, a genuine warmth that rarely reached his eyes anymore, ruffling her hair. Just a regular dad, sweetheart. But he wasn't regular, not even close. Hidden beneath that humble, quiet exterior was a past he had buried 6 feet deep. Sergeant Elias Vance, call sign, Wraith, former Special Forces operative. The kind of soldier who'd completed missions that never made it into any official record. He'd walked away from it all 6 years ago, when his wife died suddenly, leaving him alone with a 3-year-old Lily. Elias made a choice. No more battlefields, no more life-or-death operations. Just him and his daughter. A quiet life. A safe life. The only reminder of his past was a worn dog tag he kept tucked inside his shirt, engraved with 2 words, duty and honor. He'd touch it sometimes when the memories crept in at night. Then he'd look at Lily, asleep in her bed, and remember. Remember why he left that world behind. On the other side of the city, in a penthouse office overlooking the skyline, Serafina Croft sat behind her desk. 30 years old, CEO of Apex Global, brilliant, driven, respected, feared. She had built walls around herself, thick ones. After clawing her way to the top in a world that doubted her at every turn, trust became a luxury she couldn't afford to spend. Beside her, 8-year-old Chloe played quietly with her tablet. The girl was used to being surrounded by bodyguards and assistants, used to being watched, protected, isolated. "Mommy, can I have a friend over sometime?" Chloe asked softly. Serafina glanced up from her papers, her mind 1,000 miles away. "We'll see, honey. Mommy's very busy right now." Chloe nodded, her gaze falling. She'd heard that answer before. The company's biggest event of the year was approaching. The product launch gala, investors, media, competitors, everyone who mattered would be there. Serafina had planned every detail. Everything had to be perfect. Meanwhile, in the maintenance department, Elias received his assignment. "Vance, you're on event duty tomorrow night," his supervisor said, tossing him a staff badge. "Stay in the back. Fix anything that breaks. And for God's sake, don't embarrass us in front of the VIPs. Elias just nodded. Just another job. That evening, he helped Lily with her homework at their small kitchen table. "Dad, what do you think courage means?" she asked, her pencil hovering over her assignment. Elias thought for a moment, the word echoing in his mind. Courage. Courage is doing what's right, even when you're scared. Even when it costs you something. Lily smiled. "Like a hero. Like anyone," he replied softly, "who chooses to protect someone else." He didn't know that in less than 24 hours he'd have to prove those words. The next evening, the Apex Global Tower glowed with lights. Red carpets, luxury cars, designer gowns. And in the service entrance, Elias Vance clocked in, carrying his toolbox. Just another invisible man, in a cheap gray vest. "Hold on. Let us know from which city are you watching? It's amazing to see how far stories like this can spread. Subscribe if you want to see the twist unfold with us." And now, back to the moment where everything changed. The ballroom sparkled. It was like something out of a fairy tale. Crystal chandeliers, gold accents, guests in $1,000 suits sipping champagne. Elias stayed near the back wall, his toolkit in hand, his eyes scanning. Not the guests, but the fixtures. Scanning for anything that might need fixing. He was checking a faulty light switch when it happened. Watch where you're going. Elias turned. He'd accidentally bumped into Marcus Jennings, the company's operations manager, a man known for his expensive watches and even more expensive ego. Jennings glared at him, his face a mask of pure disgust. Useless. Stay out of the way, janitor. This event is for important people, not whatever you are. A nearby guest, a woman in a diamond necklace, turned and whispered loudly to her companion, "Who let the handyman wander around here? Shouldn't he be in the basement or something?" Laughter rippled through the small group. Elias said nothing. He'd learned long ago that some battles weren't worth fighting. He simply nodded and stepped back into the shadows. But across the room, hidden behind a velvet-draped pillar, a small figure watched everything. Lily. She'd snuck in through the service entrance, wanting to surprise her dad, wearing her nicest dress. Now she stood frozen, watching strangers mock her hero. Tears welled in her eyes. Elias caught her gaze. His heart seized. He gave her a small, forced smile and a wink. "It's okay, sweetheart. I'm okay." But her little heart broke anyway. On stage, the lights dimmed. A spotlight illuminated Serafina Croft as she stepped forward, Chloe beside her in a beautiful white dress. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight." Serafina's voice was confident, commanding. She spoke about innovation, about the future, about Apex Global's revolutionary new product. The crowd applauded. Cameras flashed. Chloe stood quietly beside her mother, uncomfortable with all the attention. She scanned the crowd, looking for something, anything, familiar. Her eyes found Elias near the back, the kind-looking man in the plain vest. He smiled at her. Gently, she smiled back. Serafina continued her speech. "This product represents not just technology, but a commitment to..." Then everything exploded into chaos. A man in a dark coat shoved through the crowd, his face twisted with rage. His hand reached inside his jacket. Security noticed. Too late. The gun came out, chrome, deadly, aimed directly at Chloe. "You destroyed my family," the man screamed. "Now I'll destroy yours." Time seemed to slow. Serafina's face went white with terror. Guests screamed, scrambling over each other to escape. Security officers reached for their weapons, but they were too far away, too slow. The gunman's finger moved toward the trigger, and Elias moved. No thought. Pure, unadulterated instinct. The training he had buried for 6 long years erupted to the surface. His toolkit crashed to the floor. His legs propelled him forward with a speed and precision that didn't belong in a ballroom. 3 seconds. That's all it took. He crossed 20 feet of ballroom floor, weaving through panicking guests. Chloe stood frozen on stage, terrified. Serafina reached for her daughter, but she wasn't close enough. Elias launched himself up the stage steps. The gunman's eyes widened in surprise. Elias threw his body between the gun and the little girl, arms spread wide. A human shield. The shot rang out, deafening, final. Elias's body jerked violently. Blood blossomed across his white shirt. But Chloe was untouched. He crashed to his knees, but his mission wasn't done. He wrapped his arms around the trembling child, pulling her down, covering her completely with his own body in case there was a second shot. The room fell into a shocked, deafening silence. Security tackled the gunman, slamming him to the ground. Elias's strength was fading, fast. He looked down at Chloe, who stared up at him with wide, terrified eyes. He managed a smile, gentle, reassuring. "You're safe now," he whispered. Then his eyes found Lily in the crowd. His little girl stood frozen, hand over her mouth, tears streaming down her face. He mouthed the words, "I love you, Lils." Serafina dropped to her knees beside him, her hands shaking. "Oh God! Oh my God! Someone call an ambulance!" Elias's hand slipped from Chloe's shoulder. His body went limp. Chloe clung to him, sobbing. "Don't go! Please don't go!" Blood pooled on the gleaming stage floor beneath him. His breathing became shallow, labored. Each breath a struggle. Around them, the ballroom remained frozen. Guests stood in shocked clusters. Some were crying. Others had their phones out, recording. The very people who'd laughed at him minutes ago now stared in horror. Marcus Jennings stood near the stage, his face pale, the smirk long gone. Paramedics burst through the doors, equipment clattering. "Everyone move back! Give us room!" They rushed to Elias's side, immediately assessing the wound. "Gunshot to the upper chest. Pulse is weak. We need to move now." Serafina wouldn't let go of his hand. "Is he going to make it? Please, tell me he's going to make it." "Ma'am, we need space to work." Lily pushed through the crowd, running toward the stage. "Daddy!" A security guard tried to hold her back, but she fought past him, scrambling up the steps. She collapsed beside her father, grabbing his free hand. "Daddy, please, please don't leave me. You promised. You promised you'd always be there." Elias's eyes fluttered open, just briefly. He saw her. He squeezed her hand, a weak, fleeting pressure. "My brave girl." Then his eyes closed again. "We're losing him. We need to go." The paramedics lifted him onto a stretcher. They rushed him toward the exit. Lily running alongside, still holding his hand, refusing to let go. Chloe watched them go, her white dress stained with his blood. She stood trembling, replaying those final seconds. The stranger, the shield, the whisper. "You're safe now." Serafina wrapped her arms around her daughter, both of them shaking. The ballroom remained silent, except for the fading sound of sirens. The ambulance screamed through the city streets, lights flashing red and blue against the night sky. Inside, paramedics worked frantically over Elias's body. IV lines, oxygen mask, pressure on the wound. "BP is dropping, 70/40. Stay with us, sir. Stay with us." Lily sat strapped in the corner, watching, helpless, as they fought to keep her father alive. Her hands were covered in his blood, her dress ruined. She didn't care. Serafina and Chloe followed in a separate car, escorted by security. Chloe hadn't stopped crying. At the hospital, Elias was rushed into emergency surgery. The waiting room filled quickly. Employees from Apex Global, journalists sniffing out the story. Lily sat alone on a hard plastic chair, staring at the operating room doors, waiting, praying. Serafina approached slowly, Chloe clutching her hand. She sat down beside Lily, uncertain. "What do you say?" "Your father," Serafina's voice cracked. "He saved my daughter's life." Lily didn't look up. "He saves everyone. That's what heroes do." "What's his name?" Serafina whispered. "I don't even know his name." "Elias Vance." Lily's voice was small. "He's a maintenance worker. In your building. You probably never noticed him." Serafina felt the words like a slap. She hadn't noticed him. None of them had. Hours passed. 3, 4, 5. Finally, a surgeon emerged, still in blood-stained scrubs. The waiting room fell silent. "He's alive," the surgeon said. "Barely." Lily gasped, a choked sob. The bullet missed his heart by centimeters. He lost a tremendous amount of blood, but he's stable for now. Lily collapsed in relief, sobbing into her hands. "He's a fighter," the surgeon continued, pulling off his cap. "I've seen combat wounds before. This man, he has training, military training. His body knew how to survive." Serafina's eyes widened. "Military?" 2 hours later, they were allowed into the recovery room. Elias lay unconscious, tubes and wires connecting him to machines that beeped in a steady, reassuring rhythm. Lily held his hand, refusing to leave his side. Serafina stood near the door, Chloe beside her. On the floor near Elias's bed, something had fallen from his clothing, a worn metal chain. Serafina picked it up, a dog tag, old, scratched, with words engraved on its surface, duty and honor. She turned it over. A name, a rank, a unit designation. Her hands began to shake. Sergeant Elias Vance, Special Operations. Call sign, Wraith. The door opened. A man in his 60s entered, wearing a military dress uniform adorned with medals. General Miles Corbin, retired. He'd been at the gala as a guest. He stopped when he saw Elias in the bed. His face went pale. "My God," he whispered, "it really is him." Serafina turned. You know him. Know him." Corbin's voice filled with a sudden, fierce reverence. Wraith was a legend, one of the most decorated operatives in Special Forces history, missions in places we can't even name. He saved countless lives. He approached the bed slowly, as if approaching a shrine. I served with him, watched him carry 3 wounded soldiers through enemy fire, alone, in the middle of the night. Serafina felt the room spinning. But he's a maintenance worker. He disappeared 6 years ago, Corbin continued, his voice soft. After his wife died, we all wondered what happened to him. Turns out, he chose fatherhood over glory, chose anonymity over recognition. He looked at Lily, who was staring at him, her eyes wide. You're his daughter. Lily nodded, tears streaming down her face. The general's eyes softened. Then you have the bravest father in this country, young lady. Maybe the world. The words spread like wildfire. By morning, the story had exploded across every news channel, every social media platform. Mystery hero revealed. Legendary soldier saves CEO's daughter. Wraith's return. The janitor who was a war hero. Photos of the dog tag circulated. Military forums confirmed the story. Veterans came forward with testimonies of Sergeant Vance's heroism. The ballroom footage went viral. 20 million views in 12 hours. 50 million by the end of the day. People watched the moment over and over. The man in the cheap vest, running forward while everyone else ran away. The gunshot. The fall. The whisper. You're safe now. Comments flooded in by the thousands. This is what a real man looks like. We walk past heroes every single day and never know it. He didn't hesitate for even a second. Back at the hospital, Elias's room filled with flowers, cards, letters from strangers, from veterans, from parents thanking him for protecting a child. On the 3rd day, Elias's eyes finally opened. The first thing he saw was Lily, asleep in the chair beside him, her hand still holding his. He squeezed, gently. She woke immediately, gasping. Daddy! Hey, Lil, he whispered, his voice rough. I'm okay. She burst into tears, laying her head on his chest, carefully, feeling his heartbeat. Real, alive, still here. Serafina entered moments later with Chloe. When Chloe saw Elias awake, she ran to his bedside. You saved me, she said, her eyes wide. You didn't even know me, and you saved me. Elias smiled, a weak, pained smile. Any father would have done the same, but you're not my father. No, Elias said gently, but I am a father, and I couldn't let another little girl lose what my Lily almost lost. I couldn't let you grow up without your mom. Chloe reached out and took his hand. Thank you so much. Serafina stepped forward, the dog tag in her hand. This fell from your shirt. Elias looked at it, the piece of his past kept hidden for so long. Wraith, Serafina asked quietly, why didn't you tell anyone who you were? Because, Elias replied, his voice gaining a bit of strength, that's not who I am anymore. I'm just a dad. That's all I want to be. You're more than that, Serafina said, her voice thick with emotion. You're everything we should aspire to be. And I'm ashamed. I'm so ashamed that I never saw it. That none of us saw it. Elias's eyes grew heavy again. Don't let her grow up afraid, he whispered, looking at Chloe. Let her laugh. Let her play. Let her be a kid. Like my Lily. Serafina nodded, tears falling freely now. I promise. As Elias drifted back to sleep, the 2 girls stood side by side. Chloe reached out and took Lily's hand. 2 daughters, 2 parents. One moment that changed everything. The ballroom incident became a reckoning. Within 24 hours, the video had been watched over 100 million times worldwide. Every angle, every moment, the mocking, the humiliation, the heroism, and people were angry. Marcus Jennings, the operations manager who'd called Elias a useless janitor, became the face of corporate cruelty. His image was everywhere. Screenshots of him laughing, clips of his dismissive words. The backlash was instant and brutal. This is how you treat your heroes? He risked his life while you ran away. You should be ashamed. Jennings tried to release a statement, an apology. It was too late. The damage was done. 3 days after the incident, Serafina called an emergency board meeting. The entire executive team assembled. She stood at the head of the table, her expression cold and resolute. Marcus Jennings is terminated, effective immediately. The room went silent. But Serafina, one board member protested, he's been with us for 12 years. He shamed this company. Serafina cut him off. Elias Vance honored it. One man in a cheap vest showed more character than our entire management team combined. She looked around the table. Anyone who has a problem with that decision can join Mr. Jennings in the unemployment line. No one spoke. Furthermore, Serafina continued, I am establishing the Elias Vance Foundation, scholarships for children of veterans, mental health services for former soldiers, transitioning to civilian life, funding for single parents struggling to make ends meet. She paused, her voice softening. And Elias Vance will have a position here for as long as he wants one, not in maintenance, as our Director of Security and Community Relations, with a salary befitting someone who would die for us. Back at the hospital, the scene outside Elias's room had transformed. Veterans in uniform lined the hallways, standing at attention, a silent honor guard for one of their own. Families brought their children to leave drawings and letters. Thank you for being brave. You're my hero. I want to be like you when I grow up. Lily watched from the doorway, overwhelmed by the outpouring of love for her father. Chloe stood beside her. The two girls had become inseparable. Your dad is famous now, Chloe said quietly. Lily smiled. He was always famous to me. Inside the room, Elias watched the news coverage with disbelief, his face on every channel, his story told and retold. General Corbin visited again, this time with a delegation of military officials. The president wants to award you the Civilian Medal of Valor, Corbin said. Elias shook his head. I don't need medals. It's not about what you need, Corbin replied gently. It's about showing the world what courage looks like. Real courage. The kind that doesn't wear a uniform or seek recognition. Outside, news crews broadcast live from the hospital. Crowds gathered, holding signs. Thank you, Elias. Heroes walk among us. Respect the invisible. The story had touched something deep. A reminder that heroism doesn't announce itself. That the most powerful people aren't always the ones in corner offices. Sometimes they're the ones fixing the lights. The ones we never see until the moment we need them most. 2 weeks later, Elias was finally discharged from the hospital. The media frenzy had calmed, but the impact remained. He turned down interview requests from every major network, declined book deals, refused movie offers. I just want to go home with my daughter, he told them all. But there was one visit he couldn't refuse. Serafina and Chloe came to his small apartment on a Sunday afternoon. It was modest, clean, filled with photos of Lily and drawings she'd made. Chloe carried something wrapped in paper. She walked up to Elias, who sat on the couch, still recovering. I made this for you, she said shyly. Elias unwrapped it. A drawing, colored pencils on white paper. It showed a man with angel wings, arms spread wide, shielding a small girl. Above them, written in a child's handwriting, Uncle Elias, my guardian angel. Elias's eyes filled with tears. This is beautiful, Chloe. Thank you. Chloe hugged him gently, careful of his injuries. You gave me my life back. I'll never forget that. Serafina stepped forward, her composure finally cracking. I spent my whole life judging people by their titles, their clothes, their bank accounts. She knelt down to his level. My daughter, she sees who you truly are. She always did. She saw it in 30 seconds, and I couldn't see it in 3 years. You were protecting her, Elias said gently. That's what good mothers do. I was isolating her, Serafina corrected, her voice thick. Building walls. You taught me that real strength isn't about walls. It's about bridges, connection, trust. She reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. This is a contract, Director of Security. You can start whenever you're ready or never. The offer stands forever. Elias took the envelope but didn't open it. I'll think about it. Take all the time you need. The afternoon sun streamed through the windows. Lily and Chloe sat together on the floor, drawing, laughing. Two girls who had found a deep friendship, forged in tragedy. Elias watched them, a small, genuine smile crossing his face, despite the pain in his chest. You know what I realized? He said quietly to Serafina. I thought I left the battlefield forever when Lily was born. Thought I'd traded duty for diapers, honor for homework. He touched his chest where the scar would remain, forever. But fatherhood, this is the most important battlefield there is. Every day is a mission. Every decision matters. Every moment counts. Serafina nodded, understanding washing over her face. Courage never retires, Elias continued, his gaze fixed on his daughter. It just changes uniforms. Outside, children played in the courtyard. Birds sang. Life continued, beautiful and fragile. Elias looked at his daughter, at Chloe, at the simple, profound joy of two kids being kids. And he knew he'd make the same choice 1,000 times over. Every single time. Subscribe if you believe real heroes are fathers who never stop protecting.